I'm a bit amped. Buonasera, amici, amiche, signori, signore. How's it going? T. Walker with you here with Walker Wine Session number 5 alive. Yeah, welcome. Today I've got to share with you a bottle of Montefalco Rosso. It is Italian. That is the DOC, the Denominazione di Origine Controllata. It's without the G, the Garantita, but one of their system that's similar to a lot of the European systems that regulate what you can grow, where you can grow it, and all sorts of other what's the word I'm looking for? Quantities and rules and regulations as far as tonnage of grapes you can bring in and such. So Montefalco Rosso is the area. It lies in Umbria, which is it's a province between Tuscany and La Marche in Italy, kind of in central Italy. It's landlocked and kind of lies, it's a very mountainous region. You've got the Apennine mountains that run north and south, kind of down the spine of Italy, and there's some beautiful valleys and valley floors there, and so generally speaking, that's where they grow things, and that's where this Sagrantino Merlot Sangiovese blend comes from. The producer is ScacciaDiavoli, which means to banish devils or demons. That's it's the winery name, and that's an homage to someone a couple hundred years ago. There was an exorcist that would banish demons and use this wine to do it. So maybe that's a reason to buy this wine at the end of the day. We'll see if you've got some demons lurking in your closet. ScacciaDiavoli, this is the producer. Montefalco Rosso is the DOC from Italy, 2015 vintage. We've got 14% alcohol by volume, and the breakdown on the grape varieties is 60% Sangiovese, 25 Merlot, 15 Sagrantino. When I bought this wine from a local wine shop. It was the first time that I went in, and I kind of just wanted to browse the shelves and pick something without recommendation, which isn't necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, just a certain way to go about it. And I just wanted to get an unbiased opinion and see what they had there. And where I farm grapes, we actually have some Italian varieties, and one of those is Sagrantino as well as Sangiovese. And at the time, I wasn't specifically sure of the quantity of Sagrantino. But Sagrantino is a grape variety that is known for its tannin structure, so that dryness that you get in red wines, and the texture that you can feel as well. Not an acidity dry like a lemon, but a physical texture that's drying to the mouth. But Sagrantino, a grape variety that has been around for at least a handful of 100 years or so, 400 or 500 years. Potentially much longer than that. Pliny the Elder, he makes note in his natural history encyclopedia about drinking wines from this region of Montefalco, and so it's natural that potentially either this grape and or potentially its parentage that produced Sagrantino specifically is what I'm talking about, comes from there. So this is a DOC. There's a slightly higher level DOCG. That is Sagrantino di Montefalco, or Montefalco Sagrantino is the DOCG, and that is 100% Sagrantino. I believe I have to look that up, but if not, it's certainly predominantly Sagrantino, but it's got to be 100% Sagrantino. And aged a little bit longer by law. This one ages for 18 months. 12 months in barrel and larger vats, and then 6 months in bottle before release. Where the DOCGs usually in the red wine world, they usually age a little bit longer, and I believe it's three years in total, 2 years of barrel aging, and then 1 year of bottle aging. And that barrel aging also helps to really soften Sagrantino. That is, like I said, a very structured, very tannic wine. So definitely something that you want to drink with food, and not too recently, and I'll get to the wine here very, very shortly, but making dry wine from Sagrantino is somewhat of a new thing too, maybe about 50 years old or so, where most of it was made in the pasito style, or they would dry the grapes and then ferment it as much as they could, but they'd let it dry for a couple months, then ferment it, and it would always wind up being sweet because that fermentation would stall out. So you would get this kind of raisinated type wine, different than a dry style, for sure. And so they still do that today. They have the DOCG Sagrantino Pasito style, which I think I've had, but it's probably been quite some time. So you don't see that very often. You'd have to seek it out or have a really great wine store, which is awesome. So kudos to you. But anyways, I'll give you some info kind of about the area. This vineyard site itself lies in that kind of 1,500 foot range in a valley, and clay sandy soils. 60% Sangio, like I was saying, Sangiovese, 25 Merlot, so a little international variety for their kind of entry-level line, if you will, and 15% Sagrantino. It would have been great to have a DOCG Sagrantino Montefalco. In general, those are going to be more expensive, and I was fishing in the kind of $20 price point range. I think this one came in, I didn't write it down, which I should have, but came in like $23 or $4, I believe. So in that kind of mid to low 20s. Most of your Reservas, so your DOCG, Sagrantino Montefalcos, are probably going to be in the 30s and 40s and upwards. There's some famous producers that make some really good wine. Arnaldo Capri, which is an example, one of the classic producers there that does a great job. But I haven't written any notes down. I took one sniff earlier just to make sure it wasn't corked. It wasn't. My nose is even in the glass, but I can smell it already, and it smells lovely. So the color here, and I promise soon in the next 5 to 10 episodes, hopefully next episode, I'm going to have a better camera, a better setup so you can see color and such a lot better, because I don't think it doesn't particularly change the wine, but it certainly sets the stage possibly for what your palate thinks it's going to receive, whether it's a dark color, a light color, in between, the type of color, its depth and such. And so this is kind of a beautiful kind of cherry rose a color. So that Sangiovese, I think, really shining through. And Sagrantino is usually, it's a fairly small cluster, fairly dark. And so you get a usually darker color from Sagrantino. So there's only 15% Sagrantino, but I'm hoping that it delivers a lot on the palate for that 15%. But a beautiful nose, floral. I kind of think of also, like, not to say it again, but like a cherry blossom, this kind of sweet cherry blossom, definitely tobacco and cedar. There's a vegetal aspect that's coming out now, and this wine I opened maybe 10 or 15 minutes ago, didn't decant it or anything, so it might have benefited from a little decanting. This is really interesting, like umami. I thought it was vegetal of some sort, but umami kind of, I don't know if it's like a seaweed wrapper, but something that reminds me of like a dark Asian type of food. A little bit of the ocean, almost like hoisin too. Yeah, really interesting. Earthy, not vegetal, earthy and smoky, almost like not sesame oil. It's like, it's not the toasted sesame oil. It's like regular sesame oil, but then maybe in the pan it's hot. It's kind of, it's a little fusile, if you will. Definitely a kirsch, a kind of kirsch liqueur, cherry liqueur thing going on. There's a sweetness to the palate. A lovely fennel seed note. You get that. I find that a lot in Italian wines. And I'm not sure if that's the oak regimen. Probably a lot of them age wines in much larger, what they call botti, B-O-T-T-I, which are they're oak barrels that are the size of, probably depends on how big, but anywhere between 5 and 15 regular barrels, or maybe even a little bit more. And so it's kind of a traditional way for a lot of places to make wine, as they've been making wine a long time, and they just have one huge stationary barrel that ages wine. But I'd have to get some like rice oil or whatnot and maybe throw that in a pan. It might not be sesame, but it's definitely this really interesting earthiness that I think adds some complexity to the wine. And it's quite new to me, so we'll see. I'll kind of follow it throughout, obviously, this review, but then later on in the evening and into tomorrow, as I won't finish it tonight. Let's give it a whirl on the palate. Dry. Interesting. A little tight still, a little tight, needs some air. Good potential though, a nice kind of silky mouthfeel is the underlying current. But then there's definitely this, drying tannins, not prickly, but they're certainly kind of fine grained and still a little young in a way. A little sandpapery. It'd be nice to have them a little bit more polished. It's not off-putting by any means. That was my first sip of wine as well, so I don't want to judge the wine on the first sip. I have had a little wine earlier today, so quasi first sip, that was a few hours ago. But yeah, on the palate, kind of elegant and brutish at the same time. This kind of silky approach, yet boom. There's some tannins for you. So I got what I asked for, a little Sagrantino. But a very inviting nose. It's intriguing. There's some umami flavors going on. There's certainly fruit in that kind of mostly red category. Yeah, definitely that kind of like vanilla, sorry, I keep itching my nose. Vanilla fennel seed kind of component that in the sweet, savory core of spices. A little chewier there. Makes me feel like the tannins are going to soften a little bit. As well as, it's always interesting, our bodies, just as much as the wines soften and or evolve over an evening, my personal opinion and experiences, because that's where I draw my opinions from, is that not only does the wine evolve, but our palate and evolves also throughout the evening with the wine. Our palate is calibrating, just like anything else, trying to match up with the wine. So I'm not trying to get into some hocus pocus type of stuff, but there's definitely a natural world around us, and I think we don't know as much as we think we know sometimes, and our body is very intelligent and doesn't get enough credit for being a very fantastic computer, as one person once said. So I think our palates shift and change and attempt to get to the same level or be as receptive as possible to what we take in. when we're taking that in. So I'm gonna give it one more whirl on the palate. It kind of it backs up what the aroma is, and the kind of red fruit, cherry. There's a kind of silky vanilla thing going on there. Definitely tannins. It's a little tight. I'm not gonna say disjointed, but it's just still a little tight to really fully get all of the flavor compounds, to have them kind of seamlessly roll over on the tongue and palate for me. But I like the wine, and my initial impressions are that it's really tasty. And I think for 23 bucks, it's worth it in that price point. Not 30 by any means, but that low 20s, I think it's still hitting a decent price point. Delivers with some complexity, with some structure, whatever structure you're looking for, but some structure. It's not thin by any means. It's not hollow. So those are things that I like to check off. Not particularly, if it tastes like lemon or rhubarb or whatever flavor that you like, but I want to taste these wines not only for myself because it's my journey, but also I want to taste it for other people as well. That way I can describe to somebody else that this might not be my favorite wine, but someone else might love this wine. And so we can relate on the same level. And I can say, well, this is my experience and I had these things and it wasn't my favorite, but I think you might really like it. That's how we can communicate through the world of wine and help each other out. Give it one more sippy sip. Juicy, beautiful acidity. I haven't talked about the acidity. And I generally like softer, lower acid wines, but beautiful, mouth-watering, lively acidity. Not acidic, but just lively and juicy. Makes you salivate. And this wine, is just screaming for some duck, for some beef. For something with some richness. I think in that darker meat category, if we're talking about meat, I need to expand personally my food pairings possibly with maybe some vegetarian options. But I might need to learn that world a little bit better. But yeah, a lovely wine, great textures. The tannins are softening. My body is calibrating to this wine well. And see if there's any information on the back. No, I didn't really miss much. Importer out of Denver. I know this winery's been around for multiple generations. I believe they're on their fourth or fifth family in-house winemaker, which is cool. So, I want to start doing some videos, either a follow-up or the ending, but I think a follow-up video, so I can talk about other things that, this wine brought up for me, but I'd like to go on maybe a little bit more of another, a segment based on something that's more practical, that's related, obviously related to wine, but not just tasting the wine. So something that you can take home with you if you can't find this producer, because I don't think they make a lot of wine, but I haven't seen it in the market in other states that I've been in. So not to say it's not out there, but it might be difficult. You might have to get it online or whatnot. So I don't think that's necessary, is my point. And so I want you to go out and have your own experience and use your noggin to get you where you want to be and to have some good wines and keep it fresh. So yeah, I'm going to start that hopefully soon. I'm hopefully get a better camera, better lighting, a new setup. I'm slightly different, the angle, if anyone's noticed. I used to be in the corner, so I would have been sitting, looking that way, sitting with my back to this way. But anyways, hopefully get a better setup soon. Don't want to ramble on too much, but a lovely wine. One more sip just to see what the palate's like in this kind of 10 minutes or so since I've been tasting. There's a almost tobacco note to this wine. This wine also is making me sweat a little bit. It's not particularly warm in my house, but it's bringing on some warmth to the body, so also something to note. Yeah, we'll talk about it in another episode or in a follow-up segment. There's a little bit of reduction in this wine that I'm getting. So we'll talk a little bit about just the very basic chemistry of that, as I'm not a professional winemaker in an active sense, although I have made wine many a time. So that's kind of lingering there, this reductive aspect, a little bit like burnt tire or rubber, but it's not overwhelming. And yeah, there's an interesting tobacco, that umami. It's probably in that umami realm that I was talking about earlier with the that seaweed, hoisin, sesame, hot oil. There's something really interesting going on there that I like, that makes it, I think it gives it just that one little notch above. So without that, I think it wouldn't be as complex. So whether some of these things are false or not, that's a different story. They could be, and if so, in this case, they've made it, for me, a better wine. So, one man's trash is another man's treasure. There you go. That's all I know for today. Banishing devils in North Carolina. Hope everyone's well. I'll be back with you shortly. My plan is to post a video a week. Sometimes, hopefully, I'll get some more in than that, maybe 2. Some weeks I might not, but my plan is to keep making these better. And I'd love any feedback that you've got. Please post it. I will check them until it's physically I'm not able to check them due to time or literally can't read. I will be there. So I appreciate your time and joining me, and look forward to the next session. Till then, ciao.